All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, but before we actually get started, we have a presentation to our financial advisor. No, this is Darcy. Darcy Mulroy. I'm sorry, Darcy. I always thought that you were our financial advisor because you always keep us flush. All right. In all seriousness, I better put my jacket on. You can come up here, Darcy. 25 years. Seems like a lifetime.
It is a lifetime.
I'm going to come around that way there. We'll get a picture with Darcy, maybe presentation, and we'll have pictures all around. Who's looking after the county treasurer up here? Darcy, I want to thank you for 25 years. That's unbelievable. You know, it seems like yesterday that I thought of you. I guess it was just a little yesterday, 25 years ago. So anyway, I want to thank you for all your service. 25 years is a remarkable accomplishment to put up with us. So take the rest of the day off, Darcy. All right, thanks again for your. Kara will Photoshop you into the picture, Kara. Resolutions first. Thanks again, Darcy. Would you like to do it? Kara, I told him that we'll Photoshop you into the picture. All right, we have the agenda before us. Any additions to the agenda?
Good morning, Reeve and Council. A couple of additions to bring to your attention. First of all, under 4C for CAO report, please add the recreation cost sharing master plan, the request for council decision. That information is attached. On item number 24, Councillor Gunderson has circulated a written report with respect to the Drayton Valley Municipal Library meeting. And also at this time, I'd like to introduce Lexi Elliott. She's our air traffic controller here for today's proceedings. Our admin staff is busy out front with tax season upon us, so welcome to Lexi, and I trust we'll be patient with her turning on and off microphones as we proceed through the meeting. And I think that's all I have, Reeve.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as presented or amended. Glenn?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Discussion? All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara? How do you vote, Kara? I am. You just have to say something, eh, Glenn? All right. We'll catch Kara on the next one, maybe. Adoption of the minutes, pages 10 to 23. Anthony,
Page 14,
go ahead.
first motion where it says public hearing at 10 o'clock should be 10:15 because the other one was at 10 o'clock, so this one should be at 10:15.
Okay.
And then motion number 242, where it says May 5th, 2026, it should be 2025.
All right. With those adjustments, motion to approve the minutes as presented?
If there's no other comments,
No.
I move to adopt the minutes as amended.
Discussion, all those in favor? How do you vote, Kara? Did we lose her there, Tina? How do you vote, Kara?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I just asked, are you in favor of approving the minutes?
Oh, this,
No? Or yes?
yes? Oh, no, can you hear me?
We asked if you
Shoot.
are in favor or opposed to approving the minutes.
I am in favor.
Okay, thank you. You're really quiet for some reason today. That's surprising.
Oh. I'm never quiet, okay?
Yeah, if you speak into the mic, it might be better. All
Okay,
right,
I'm running you through hands-on, hands-free, but I'll, okay.
all right. So that's carried unanimous. Follow-up action list, Rudy?
Thank you, Reeve. No actions to report as completed yet. A couple that will be upcoming for our June 3rd meeting.
Thank you. CAO, we need a motion to approve the follow-up action list as presented. Anthony?
I move to receive the follow-up action list for information.
Discussion? All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
That's way better, thank you.
Is it way better? Okay, I changed devices.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rudy.
Thank you, Reeve. A couple of items, first of all, on the CAO report. First of all, bylaws 120825 and 120925 with respect to the upcoming municipal elections. I'm asking Courtney Whalen and our returning officer, Jasmine Nuthall, to present those for council's consideration this morning.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Good morning, Council. Just a couple of items for you today in regards to the election. Both of these bylaws should be familiar to you as we have traditionally done them in the past. So the first one, bylaw 120825, is the designation of voting stations. Under Local Authorities Election Act, Section 31, subsection 3, Council is required to pass a bylaw if they wish for the returning officer to be able to designate more than one voting station per division. The Local Authorities Election Act only specifies one per division. Traditionally, Brazeau County, in some of our bigger divisions, has allocated 2 voting stations. This bylaw would just allow for the returning officer to take a look at what we've done previously and have the opportunity to designate more than one voting station per division if required. So we are asking that council give all required readings to bylaw 120825 today to allow for the returning officer to designate more than one voting station per division for the 2025 municipal election.
So I think one of the things that's been great about Brazeau County is we allow what you just said there, to allow more than one. We've had a tremendous voter turnout because of that. I think the last time we had about 2,400 voters turn out, which is phenomenal in our county. So that's impressive. So I hope council approves this bylaw to allow more than one voting station per division. Any comments? Donna?
No comments.
Good afternoon, Dallas. Good afternoon, sir. So we're on allowing for more than one voting station, the bylaw in each division. Go ahead, Donna.
I move to give first reading to bylaw 1208-25.
Discussion?
Oh.
All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Thank you. Anybody? Glenn?
I move to give second reading to bylaw 1208-25.
Discussion, all those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Somebody to make a motion to go to third reading, Anthony?
I move to go to third reading for bylaw 1208-25.
Discussion, all those in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
And who wishes to give third reading? Dallas?
I'll move third reading to bylaw 1208-25 to allow for returning officer designate more than one voting station per division for the 2025 municipal election.
Discussion, all those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Okay, that's carried unanimous. One down.
Thank you, Council. So now we'll go on to the next one, bylaw 1209-25. This is for the printing of ballot and lots. So today we're going to ask that Council again give all required readings to bylaw 1209-25 to allow for the printing of ballots in lots for the 2025 municipal election. As Council will remember, we have traditionally done this one. Printing ballots in lots allows every candidate to have their name appear at the top of the ballot per booklet. So the first ballot would have candidate A, B, C, D. The second ballot would have D, A, B, C, and so on. The alternative to that would just be the standard alphabetical order. So we've found in the past that doing the ballots in lots allows every candidate to have their name appear at the top of the ballot. Council has traditionally liked to do that, and so that's why we're presenting this bylaw again today.
Thank you. What's your wishes, Council?
I can move first reading.
Okay, thanks, Kara. Jumping to the mic quickly.
I move first reading to bylaw 1209-25.
Discussion, all those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Donna?
I move second reading to bylaw 1209-25.
Discussion, all those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Anthony?
I move to go to third reading for bylaw 1209-25.
Discussion, all those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Glenn?
I move to give third reading to bylaw 1209-25 to allow for the printing of ballots in lots for the 2025 municipal election.
That was a little premature, Glenn. We have to go to third reading first. Oh, did you go to third reading? Yeah. All right. Discussion on Glenn's motion. All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Okay. That was efficient, Courtney. All right, we do have several delegations coming in today. Finance. Where's Darcy?
Reeve, if I may, if we could address the addition 4C to the CAO report.
Oh, that's correct. You added that. Go ahead, Rudy.
Thank you, Reeve. On behalf of Mr. Chambers, I'm bringing this forward to Council and asking that Council approve funding for a regional recreational master plan up to $100,000 cost shared with the town of Drayton Valley. This has been something that's been discussed starting in May of 2025 at the regular joint recreation and culture meeting. The discussion about the master plan being 10 years old and that the county would share a recreation master plan 50-50 with the town. The original consideration given on this report was that the master plan be done on the key facilities that we share with the town within the town limits. In conversation with Mr. Chambers, our thought was to maybe consider some expanded funding for this project, to expand the scope a little bit, to consider some of the recreation facilities that are in the county as well. So the original town quote was for just in excess of $70,000. For our portion, it would be $70,700. But administration for the county is recommending adjusting that master plan to incorporate county initiatives and expanding the scope to cover costs up to $100,000. And we believe that would cover the wider regional activities based on our conversation with the master plan consultants. So they're done typically every 5 to 10 years to facilitate growth and community trends. And so this would be a timely opportunity for us to undertake this project. So administration is recommending that council approves funding for a regional recreational master plan up to $100,000, cost shared 50-50 with the town of Drayton Valley. Brazeau County's portion would be up to $50,000 funding from general operating reserve.
What's your
May I?
thought, Councillor? Go ahead, Kara.
Thank you. Just more of a comment for council and administration. I know a lot of grants that we're starting to see coming from the province and the federal government, particularly around recreation, are now tied to whether you have a master or this type of documentation done. So, it is timely. I would suspect ours is, it sounds like it's outdated, and if we are looking for grants or grant money that way, I know that this is starting to become a requirement for that.
Perhaps I don't know who else to ask, but if the rodeo groups and community halls and various other, let's say, facilities that are within the county are being considered in this recreation master plan, would they be part of the recreation cost-sharing agreement as well? Because as I recall the agreement, I don't recall the community halls in particular being a part of that cost-sharing agreement. So I guess I'm asking for your understanding there.
Thank you. Through the Reeve to Councillor Heinrich. I don't know the answer to that question. I know that Mr. Chambers put those in there as examples, but I don't know that they were going to be specifically targeted and asked to provide input. So that would be something that I would have to ask Mr. Chambers.
And if I can, Bart, if we're doing additional trails, for example, or whatever that might be in the county, you know, usually, I guess in the past we've paid for them. Now with these recreation agreements, what's the outlook there? I mean, there must be some, like, I know the document says to plan for what we see, how recreation might unfold. Also at the town recreation meeting, they said the use that they see for the recreation master plan, it also helps them understand the aging of their facilities so that they have a better budgeting plan, what they're explaining to us at the recreation meeting, for when they need to start putting money or have money put aside for the replacement of something like, say, the ice plant, just to use an example, at the skating facility. So that's why they explained to me at the recreation meeting what values they see from it. When I asked them if they also kind of hold the plan up every year and kind of match how their activities have gone to it, that's their explanation, that they more use it as an assessment management than totally saying everything is being checked against it. At least that's my interpretation of what I heard them tell me. So I guess there's a few more questions that I had there that I think maybe wouldn't have heard to have had answers to, but those were why I'm bringing them up here.
Thank you. Through the Reeve to Councillor Heinrich. Those would all be considerations, and I think that's why Mr. Chambers was looking to have the master plan expanded somewhat to at least analyze and understand the lifespan and the usage of the current recreational facilities that we have in the county. It at least gives us a sense of what we need to do moving forward in terms of repairs, maintenance, or adding or subtracting recreational facilities as the demand requires in the county.
You know, from my perspective there, we do enough studies, but they sit on the shelf. And I don't recall once that the master plan was actually brought forward to council in the last 10 years, the previous one. So I'm not sure this is money that could be better spent actually fixing recreation facilities rather than doing another plan. So it's not often that I go against what you say, Rudy. You're very astute. But I just see this as another study that'll sit on the shelves. And then we'll have to do a study to studies. Go ahead, Glenn.
I agree with Kara. I think that the potential for grants hinges on having a plan. So with that, I move to approve funding for a regional recreational master plan up to $100,000, cost shared 50-50 with the town of Drayton Valley. Brazeau County's portion up to $50,000, funding from general operating reserve.
Any other discussion? Donna?
Would you accept a friendly amendment to add in all of Brazeau County's recreation
Facilities?
facilities? Because we have all of Drayton Valley's, we would need all of, or should we put this on hold for maybe further discussion?
So the only way to put it on hold is to make a tabling motion, but we'll just wait here. I wanted to get a little more, discussion
Okay.
from folks before a motion was made, but Glenn jumped to the pump, so. Any other discussion? Dallas?
My question, Reeve, is to the CAO, and how time-sensitive does administration believe this matter to be?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Ekstrom, I don't have a sense of the time sensitivity, but it's something that they would be prepared to start undertaking this summer, and it would take probably about 6 months or a year to undertake the report. So I think the expectation from the town is that we approve this and move forward with the master plan as soon as we can.
Donna, then Anthony?
I'm fine with moving forward with the master plan, but I would like to have our facilities included in it.
So I'll go to Anthony first, but and then think about your friendly amendment, about what you want to say, Donna. Go ahead, Anthony.
I agree with what Don is trying to say, that if the motion that it was read, and it was basically what the recommendation is on the top of the page, doesn't require or include that Brazeau County area facilities would be included. So I think if we're trying to make sure that we're increasing it from the original amount to this 100,000, I think we should make sure that we're also specifying in that motion that what also we're wanting included, what additionally we want included. So I think Donna's friendly amendment, if Glenn accepts it, would be in order.
Glenn?
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it says, "The master plan can be done as a regional collaboration involving county users, example, rodeo groups and community halls. This will update our open spaces master plan, which is also due for updating, as this was the last completed in 2015. So it sounds like we have our own plan, an open spaces master plan, but it sounds like this includes rodeo groups and community halls.
Your motion doesn't.
No, my motion is what was recommended
Right.
by administration.
Right,
And-
that motion doesn't.
But in the topics defined, the executive summary shows that it does.
Anthony?
The summary doesn't go with the motion in terms of providing direction. Summary is just a report to us. What provides direction to staff is the motion. And so if we want these additional facilities to make sure that they're part of the study that the town would carry out, or at least lead to in carrying out, then we need to make sure that we're providing that direction in the motion.
Yeah, you don't have to specify each rural facility. You just want to have all of the recreation facilities that we deem important, whether it's horse trails, whether it's, whatever we actually decide. You should have that in the motion so that it's clear to the town that we want it included. Rudy?
Reeve, if I may, Tristan here from Community Services has some background information relative to this, if council so wishes.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Good morning, council. I apologize. Lee hadn't given me too much background on this, but I do know from our discussions on it, this master plan would replace the open spaces master plan that came to council back in 2015, which was never formally adopted. Therefore, we haven't been able to go along kind of with what that master plan said. My understanding of the master plan that was brought forward back in 2015, it was, I believe, done by the Eagle Point Blue Rapids Parks Council, and it was never formally adopted by our council here. My understanding of our joint recreation or of our cost sharing agreements is that we don't cost share on capital. The request for those would come through council if the town had requests for funding on those, just as if we had requests for funding from the town, it would then go through town council. The other thing that I will say is that this proposed master plan, should we do a regional master plan, would really help our recreation department plan for upcoming recreational needs. It would include our playground replacements, potential upgrades at rodeo grounds, community halls. Do we need more community halls? Do we need to build more recreation facilities in the county? That type of thing.
From my point of view, the reason that I feel we never adopted the last plan, the one that you're speaking of in 2015, is because it had facets in it that, in my opinion, were uncomfortable. They were looking at providing trails in private property and areas that were probably 100-year plans rather than something that was more reasonable. And so some of those objectives that were in that plan made it hard to see it being facilitated. So that's why I think council that day never felt comfortable imposing a plan that would have been on private land.
Through the Reeve to Councillor Henrik, I myself have never seen the previous plan. I've heard talk of it, but because it was never adopted, it's never been something that's crossed my desk. But I would say that with this proposed master plan and the main goal with it would just be to give us some direction on where to look, rather than us constantly coming back to council when we have proposed for example, the Birchwood pickleball court. That's something we could have foreseen rather than having it come as a request. It's more to provide us with some direction on where to look.
Anthony?
To Rudy. Rudy, who would set the terms of reference for this recreation master plan? Like, would we have input on that terms of reference? Because that would then help clarify and give council maybe the comfort they need to ensure that it will cover the facilities that are also well within the county that, we're speaking of.
Rudy, go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve. Through you to Councillor Heinrich. The structure that is being proposed is that there would be a joint town-county steering committee that would guide the direction and seek the requested information through the master plan. So we would have direct input through that system.
Are you referring to the Recreation Committee, or are you referring to some other committee?
It would be a separate committee that would be a subcommittee to oversee this process. Or at least that's what's being currently proposed.
Well, I think we need to make sure that either the motion here is amended with that friendly amendment to ensure that our facilities aren't covered, or we need to see the terms of reference that would guide the study, so that in the terms of reference, then we can ensure that it covers the areas that we're concerned about in Brazeau County.
I think that's a good point. And then comes the situation where what gets a priority. So you could have it in the terms of reference, but then the argument comes, do they cost share on Wiley West? So far they don't. Do they cost share, and who's going to set the priority of what gets done first? Because like I said, I don't recall, and even Tristan has said he hasn't even looked at the master plan. And so, and I don't mean that any, negatively, but it's just that we seem to hire consultants that aren't necessarily from the community. And I believe that councillors know each of their areas better. And so on what they think they need in an area, things have been left out in the past. And then, like I said, it's the issue of what gets a priority to actually focus on. You know, Donna had tried to get a trail going between Cynthia and Lodgepole, you know, for all kinds of recreation facilities, but nothing's happened on that at all. And there's other examples, and I'll just use Wiley West again. That's not part of cost sharing.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Kara.
Thank you. I think this is, we might be jumping the gun a bit. I think for us, the big picture is if we get this approved, then we can work on some of the details that are being discussed. I think it's been brought up about the other master plan. It wasn't adopted, so I kind of agree with Tristan. I don't even know where it would be in the office or if it would be even looked at because council never did adopt that one. But I think this is a start to move us in a direction because I think when we look at recreation, we're just spinning our wheels. And I mean, obviously we're throwing out ideas today, and that's perfect. That's exactly what needs to happen when we bring the consultant in. I'm not I couldn't write the report, but I absolutely have lots of input on what would be needed, and that's what we need to do as a council. Is if we move forward with this, that's where we bring all our ideas forward. And then let the professionals write it, because I'm not a professional writer. Glenn might be. He's probably really the closest on council. He does great reports. But I just want to be really, just back to the other point too, that this type of plan needs to be in place in order for us to apply for grants and stuff. We're starting to see that more and more. So again, I think really great discussion, great ideas. And I think a lot of it can be incorporated in the plans once we get the approval and move forward.
Those are good points, Kara, but I still believe that we need to set the terms of reference like Anthony is talking about, as well as the priorities. We've been strong rural supporters and have put a significant amount of money into the county, but without a priority plan and without a terms of reference, there's no guarantee any of that will happen, and we'll just pay some consultants $100,000 to put another study on the shelf. Anthony.
So I'm going to ask Glenn if he'll, like, was there a friendly amendment offered before? Donna, did you or no?
No.
No. Then I would ask Glenn if he would be willing to consider this, what I'm going to read here, as a friendly amendment to his motion, including recreation facilities in Brazeau County as will be identified in the terms of reference for the regional recreation master plan.
And priority or not?
Well, that's, well, yeah, priorities as we identify in our recreational master plan.
It's just that, are we going to let consultants set the priorities, or are we going to set the priorities?
Well,
We would set the priorities. We would set the priorities. That's what the committee needs to work on. And as councillors, the consultant will ask us what our priorities are, and then that will get put into the plan.
Okay, well, that has to be included in the motion then somehow, Kara. I've got Donna, then Anthony.
Because the other, sorry.
Sorry, Kara. I'm okay with this motion, as Glenn said it, because reading further, it covers everything. This plan would be completed by a consultant under the direction of a joint county and town committee. So I think it's got everything in there.
Anthony? Oh, no, Glenn.
Well, I'm more inclined to accept that friendly amendment from Anthony. I do think this is very similar to even the way that we hired a CEO. You know, you get a consultant, and then you tell them what you're looking for, and then they bring you, you know, they refine that and bring you a selection of things. So I think that's kind of what this is. We set the priorities, the consultant just refines that. So it's a starting point. It's not a lot of money. It's split between the town and the county. It's $50,000, and it might not even cost that much. They're saying it was budgeted for $70,000. So yeah, I see a benefit to this.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Kara.
Thank you. And the other piece to this too, remember that this isn't going to be just, the consultant won't be just talking to both councils. They're going to be talking to all the user groups within the community too as well. So what we might see as a priority might not be what the user group is a priority either, but that's the facilitator
Could you,
and we as a staff can make a decision, go from there.
could you repeat your friendly amendment, Anthony? Or did you actually make one?
Thank you. Including recreation facilities in Brazeau County as will be identified in the terms of reference for the Regional Recreation Master Plan.
Nothing about setting priorities?
Well, I mean, the terms of reference will set the priorities.
Okay. As long as that's included. Glenn, go ahead.
I accept Councillor Hendrick's friendly amendment.
Okay, so Glenn's motion is on the floor with a friendly amendment attached to it, having the terms of reference approved by both councils. Go ahead, Dallas.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, my question is just about process. We have a recreation committee, and this would require a subcommittee. I would like to see all of council on that decision-making, a part of that decision-making process and a part of that council, that committee. Is that possible?
Yeah, anything's possible with the motion. So you could instead of delegating it to the, 4 people on the recreation committee? 2 from the town, 2 from the county?
Well, we're talking about a subcommittee as well of that, so could I just turn to our CAO and ask for a little bit of advice?
Go ahead, Rudy.
Thank you, Reeve. To Councillor Ekstrom, absolutely. Council can designate committee of the whole if they choose to be a part of the steering committee. That would be no problem.
Okay, so just require a motion to have committee as a whole, which means all of council, to be part of the steering committee. And you can make it as a friendly amendment, and if Glenn doesn't accept it, then we have to vote on it.
Can I make a friendly amendment to a friendly amendment?
Well, the friendly amendment's already been accepted.
Okay. That's okay.
I'd rather do it all in one because one may go and one may not. So I think having council as a whole, like I said, to create the steering committee is a good idea. Dallas?
Thank you, Reeve. I would ask Councillor Gunderson to make a friendly amendment to include council as a whole for this committee.
Glenn?
I accept Councillor Ekstrom's friendly amendment.
Discussion? Oh, no, we don't have to vote on this. Pardon me? Yes. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Kara, how do you vote? Kara, how do you vote? Kara, how do you vote? Must be in a dip. All right, that's carried, unanimous. Thanks, Tristan, for coming in. Nice to see your smiling face. Okay, I think we're on finance. Go ahead, Darcy.
Good morning, Council. On page 8 of your agenda, you will find a request for council decision that administration is bringing forward proactively in the event of a potential Canada Post strike. At the time of this writing, this report, there is possibility of a Canada Post strike as early as May 22nd. For council's information, I can confirm that we have dropped off all tax notices at the post office. So as of this morning, they are where they need to be and will be distributed out throughout the Canada Post process there. Administration, reflecting on some past decisions of councils in previous years during COVID and things like that, wanted to bring a report before council to see if they had any wishes to postpone due dates or put any actions into effect to mitigate the impacts to residents during the potential Canada Post strike with our tax due date happening on June 30th. In the past, council has pushed that a month forward, but we would like to bring this forward to hear council's wishes on the subject.
Your thoughts there? Glenn, I'll go to you then. Donna?
Thank you, Chair. To Colin, are we any closer to getting on a portal so that people can just pay this online and skip this whole madness of trying to deal with Canada Post?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Gunnarsson, that is something we are currently looking at. We do have our main financial software we will be forced to update here in the very near future, and that will be coming forward through our interim budget here on kind of some cost implications on that. As part of that rollout, we are looking to bring forward a citizen portal so they are able to pay these and some other items as well too, as far as cash receipts and tax certificates and things like that. But as of right now, we don't unfortunately have that capability, but we are looking at bringing that relatively quickly.
Thank you.
But I guess kind of just to build off that, so we do still have, the ability where residents can call in, get their tax amounts and pay it. We do still do the online banking, accept visas. So there are, avenues available to have this payment. It just would require residents on some end, if they haven't received their notice, calling in to confirm their amount would be the only issue that we see here. But certainly it is doable. We do anticipate the majority of our commercial taxpayers to pay on time as well too. Typically they'll, the oil and gas companies, they'll just pay regularly regardless. They'll just send a note and say, please give us all our tax rolls underneath our company name. So we will provide that to them, and typically they'll pay off that versus the actual receipt of them. But that is typically how we handle the situation.
Donna?
Well, I think it's very nice of the county to extend it by a month. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Because we don't know the length of the postal strike, I would suggest a month after the postal strike is over, so that it's still a floating date. Let's say it lasts 2 months, right? I think you're right for us being flexible so that people can pay their taxes on time. And the other thing is I think there's 500 million people in the world that has never made a phone call, let alone used an internet connection. So we don't have 100% people that'll use the portal, but you have to have some flexibility to maybe deal with most of it, but not be so tight-fisted that they can't have time to actually enjoy their rebate, because we want people to take advantage of that, and it also helps us to collect our taxes on time.
May I?
Go ahead, Kara.
Yeah, it was just, it would be to administration. Could we set it for the month right now and then extend it if we have to, if the strike goes on longer? I don't want to leave it open-ended. I know what you're suggesting, Bart, but I'm scared, or I shouldn't say use the word scared. I'm concerned if we leave it open-ended, some people will push it, but if we say we'll extend it for a month now, can we bring it back to council in July if the strike is still going on, and then extend it for another month? I would rather do it that way than leave it open-ended.
Now that deals with that and gives the flexibility to, as soon as the strike is over, the 1 month starts after that point, Kara? That's just my preference. Glenn?
What if it's a 13-month strike? Then where does that put us in financial? That's really unfair to the county to say, I think a month is plenty enough. People can make arrangements to come into the office to pay their taxes, but if we're talking a 6-month strike or something like that, it would impact the way
I
business.
just don't want to create a hardship for our citizens, and not 100% will follow what you're talking about, Glenn. They're used to getting a piece of paper in the mail and paying it. I'm just thinking if we can give that flexibility, and it could go on for a long time, but we'll have to deal with that.
Yeah, and just from the administration standpoint, kind of A little bit as well, too. We would have to, just cash flow forecasting would become an issue as well, too. We do have some grace period, and a lot of that is anticipating that our large corporate taxpayers will continue to pay on time regardless. But there is obviously, we typically take the tax revenue received throughout the month of June and then ladder it out in investments throughout the course of the year. So we do run into, an instance if we do push that off too far as well too. So just a consideration for council.
Thanks. Anthony, then Donna?
To Colin, I don't think he answered Kara's question. If we set July 31st as the date, and it still is a problem in the sense that the strike isn't over, can we extend it?
So through the chair to Council Harnick, absolutely, Council, we can, evaluate our financial standing at that point of time. And see where we're sitting on that end. We would look for, yes, some clear direction and information that we could advertise out to residents. So if it was a month, that's something that we can, put a time frame on and put it out there so everyone can specifically see when they are due now. So that it is good to have that specified time period there. But then we would just request, yes, that administration come back in the event that council is looking to put it further out there, that we just come back and take a look at the cash flow needs to make sure we can accomplish both.
So we can extend it?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, well, that's what I'm comfortable with doing with the the July 31st one. I think that gives a reasonable expectation, and people know that the taxes are due in the end of June, and if they have this extra month, I'm sure most of them will work at trying to get it in time with that extra month.
Yes. And then just for council's information, if in the event council does go along and make a motion in this regards, at the next council meeting, we would bring forward our tax incentive bylaw that council had passed, the last one, just to adjust the dates on that as well to ensure that tax incentive is still available during that extended due date.
Do you want that included in the motion now? The tax incentive bylaw would be amended as well.
Yes, and so administration will bring that back to the next council meeting
I
as
see,
well.
okay.
Yeah, because we'll have to get that updated.
Thanks, Colin. Donna?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
I think Glenn already has a motion. No? Okay, go ahead.
Just before I do, do we keep July 30th or July 31st?
I think we're on the calendar the 31st.
30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. So it'll be July 31st.
Okay.
It's on Saturday, that's when you... No,
Oh, is it? Perfect, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks, Anthony.
okay. I move that in the event of a postal strike by Canada Post, Council extends the 2025 tax due date and residential tax incentive eligibility until July 31st, 2025.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Okay, so that's carried unanimous. Citizen first philosophy, right?
Tell ya, that's the way we roll. And so my second one on page 82 of council's agenda, you'll see the bank reconciliation as of April 30th, 2025. If council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but if not, I'd request that you receive for information.
Anthony?
I move to receive the bank reconciliation statement for April 30th as presented.
Discussion? All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Okay. All right, we've got the taxiway.
Morning. So here for Pamela Regional Aerodrome Taxiway C paving, looking for council to approve the paving overlay of Taxiway C up to the amount of $30,000 from Road Restricted Reserve. February 6, 2024, Tom Schroeder on behalf of the Aerodrome Association presented to council. The following motion was made to cost share with the town of Drayton Valley and direct staff to see what the cost would be to overlay Taxiway C and added to our paving tender to a maximum of 80,000. That was carried unanimously. Brazeau County Administration reviewed the associated costs and maintained periodic communication with the town of Drayton Valley. Most recently, at the regular council meeting on May 7th at the town, they brought it forward and approved through Resolution 108 a contribution of 30,000 towards a paving overlay for the airport taxiway. So as the town leases from the province, this paving would be arranged and managed by the town of Drayton Valley via their paving tender. So they got a quote of 60,000 and looking for us to cost share 50% of that at the 30,000. And on the last page there, it just has the aerial of, in red, there's an overline of the taxiway C. Just sort of the area looking to be paved and a couple pictures of examples of what it's looking right now, why that paving is needing to be done.
All right, any discussion on this? Airports are part of our key infrastructure, that's for sure. Glenn?
Through the chair, do we have to then rescind Anthony's motion, his original motion for $80,000?
I don't believe so. That was the initial quote the
Okay.
county got was 80,000, and most recently the town, they've decided that they're going to be the one overseeing this, and that quote most recently was 60,000, and backing onto a paving tender they already have.
Okay. I move that council approves the paving overlay of taxiway C up to an amount of $30,000 from road restricted reserve.
Discussion? All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Okay. But shouldn't we remove the other, like Glenda said, to remove Anthony's motion now? Because now we're a little closer to knowing what the actual cost would be? Rudy? Otherwise, you've got a motion sitting there saying 80,000.
Through the Reeve to council, it's my interpretation that because the original motion from Councillor Heinrich was to a maximum of 80,000, this current motion today fits within that one so that there's no disruption of the original motion, so it wouldn't have to be rescinded.
Okay, thank you for that. Carry on.
Okay, next one I have is for the CPO SUV vehicle. Council direct administration proceed in awarding Part A of the CPO SUV vehicle tender to Stetson Motors in the amount of $67,267 from taxation. And then also in awarding Part B of the CPO vehicle tender to Mega Technical Holdings in the amount of $37,114.31. So administration recently advertised via public tender for the new CPO vehicle, and during the 2025 final budget deliberations, council approved this budget, $105,000 from taxation. So the total of Part A and Part B come to $104,381.31.
No, carry on.
Part A, so we're looking to award it to Stetson Motors. Meets all specifications, price and budget alignment. There was 2 other bids on that. One of them was a bit lower. However, we did tender out for a full-size vehicle, and then that tender did not come back with that specification. It was a smaller vehicle that was quoted. And then the Part B, we had the one tender submission from Mega Technical Holdings, and that fit all the specifications for the accessories on that.
So I just got a question. When we've had RCMP in here before, and I think even the last time they came in, they said the total cost for an RCMP instead of a CPO was around $160,000. So it costs us more to have a CPO, if that's what I'm hearing here now, because that's $190,000. With the RCMP, it comes complete with a vehicle and a gun.
Oh, okay.
May I?
Go ahead, Kara.
Actually, that one I can help you with because I sit on the division executive RCMP. Those numbers are old. They are more now. That was prior to the pay raise, as well as the quotes that have been coming in lately for the vehicles are extremely high as well.
Updated number from the RCMP of what it would cost to have an RCMP instead of a CPO. Just for reference to see, have a baseline of what things actually cost. Anyway, Anthony.
I think we already got that number from the officers when they were in the meeting room with us on the priority workshop, and I think Kara's information that she said of 190 was the numbers I recall them talking to, that it's no longer the numbers that you were quoting, Bart. They have gone up significantly with what Ryan, I think it was the person's name, that had spoken about it at our priorities meeting.
Okay, I thought it was 160, but that's okay.
So,
Glenn?
When I went on a ride, and I've talked to the CPOs about the wiring up of these vehicles, is this the vendor that we've been using to do it? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because apparently they're very good at it. And you've had some experiences with some really bad ones, so I just wanted to verify that we got the right ones.
Go ahead, Anthony.
prepared to make a motion?
Sure.
I move the direct administration proceed in awarding Part A of the CPO SUV vehicle tender for VEH 0052 to Stetson Motors in the amount of $67,267 from taxation.
Do we have a CPO reserve? Like, instead of going from taxation, is there a reserve that covers this? No, we don't. Thanks, Colin. Okay, so Anthony's motion is on the floor. All those in favor? How do you vote, Kara?
In favor.
Okay, that's carried unanimous. Carry on.
No, we just need a motion for part,
For
the
the-
second one for part B as well.
Donna?
Move that council direct administration to proceed in awarding Part B of the CPO vehicle tender for VEH 0052 to Mega Technical Holdings Limited in the amount of $37,114.31 from taxation.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Oh, Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
So just to refresh my mind, population-wise, Rudy, we've got 7,500, 3 CPOs, that's 1 per 2,500 people. Parkland County, I was told, had 7 CPOs for a population of 30,000. So we have more than Parkland County by far per capita. Somebody said to use roads as an example, but roads don't violate the rules. It's people that do that, and so it should be based on the population of people. So the population of people we've got per CPO 25,000 or 2,500, and in Parkland County, because that was the example that was used, they've got a population of 30,000. So we're significantly higher with CPOs in this county than Parkland County is per population. All right, that was just a note. I like to hear myself talk sometimes. Yeah, that's understandable. We'll carry on with the rest of the agenda. So I think we're on general matters. So we got government members report. Glenn, did you think it was worthwhile going in there, Glenn?
This was very worthwhile. I don't think any of us knew what we were going into. First time that Kara had been there, first time Donna and myself had been to Alberta Council. But yeah, the town of Drayton Valley invited us basically to join an event. They could have had those ministers all to themselves, but they collaborated and allowed us to have some time. And I took as much as I could with the ministers. We had 2 ministers and 1 MLA show up. And yeah, so it was nice to get to meet the council and the Council of Alberta there and spend some time with the ministers. It was a quick in and out of the city. And so, yeah, I really appreciated the time that we had. So, yeah, it was definitely worth it.
Okay, that's good
Oh,
news.
Dallas was there too. Yeah. What
Pardon
did
me?
you think, Dallas? I'd be interested. Yeah.
Good. Okay, motion to accept the report. Donna?
I move to accept Mr. Gunderson,
Discussion,
Councillor Gunderson's report for
discussion,
information.
all those in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, that's carried unanimous. Reports now? Dallas, you're up front.
I know that Breton FCSS is hard at work, and I have not, we generally are doing quarterly meetings, so I will look forward to a meeting coming up possibly next month. So I don't have much to report on other than that.
West Central, Donna, you got the next 5, 6.
West Central Airshed, we are very excited about the 30th anniversary celebration on May 28th. Pretty much under control. We'll be having our AGM in the morning before the celebration. DVFCSS, we won't have a meeting until July, I believe. The EPAC Center, the last show of the year was Robin Hood, absolutely amazing. Plans are going ahead to start fundraising for the addition. I have a meeting tomorrow night, so not that much to say about that. DV and district learning meeting was canceled. ECDC, Bernice Taylor gave a presentation to council last meeting regarding the deficit they are facing. Mother's Day is always a great time at the Child Center. They have an auction. Items are donated for baskets, and then the mums bid on them. And the extra money is for busing for field trips or extras for the center. They usually make around $200 off of this auction. Brazeau Foundation, my first meeting was Friday. The tenants receiving rental assistance benefits will have a slight increase, around $10 a month. The CAO is looking into the Fairview site, Red Deer, and Barhead as possible field trips to look at these new sites to compare design schematics for a new 4-story building. I'm not quite up to date on that, but yeah, they're looking into possible fundraising in collaboration with other community groups to enhance the building. The Shangri-La Lodge has 2 vacancies, but there's 24 on the wait list and 3 showings this week. Rocky Rapids Housing has 0 vacancies. Spruce View, 1 vacancy, but 3 on the wait list. Leisurely, 1 vacancy with 3 on the wait list, and Wishing Well, 0 vacancies and 7 on the wait list. That's it.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right, well, let's, I guess we'll have a motion afterwards. All right, you're up, Bob. So you know the drill there. Speak your name into the microphone and who you are for the records.
All right, we're on. I'm Bob Dodlin with Accurate Assessment Group. This is Sean Barrett on my right. We'd like to thank council and staff for allowing us to do this. I barely made it here on time. I was been in the lineup there at the Hill for the last 30 minutes, so glad to be here. We also have Ali Dittrich actually with us in the audience, critiquing our presentation, so she'll give us the goods and the bads, so try not to heckle us too much. The presentation will maybe 20 to 30 minutes long, depending on number of questions. And yeah, we'll commence now. if everyone's a go.
We're ready.
Super. So the presentation is going to be broken into two basic parts. There's Accurate Assessment Group, kind of who we are, and then the highlights of the municipality's assessment. That'll be broken into two further parts. The front end, which I will present, will be the residential, more or less, part, and the commercial. And then the second part will be, I'll turn over to Sean, and that'll be non-residential, meaning industrial and dip and non-dip type properties. So we've grown since the last time we were here. We've grown a little bit. We've got, of course, 26 rural municipalities that we conduct, as well as 7 cities, 7 towns, 8 Métis settlements, and 2 First Nations. We hope to be the trusted advisor, as we always try our best every year. And something I want to note, we are nearing 500 years of assessment experience within our company. We have had some new hires recently, as well as every year I'm getting a year older, and everyone else is too. So, with regards to the front end or my side of what we do, which is residential, farmland, and commercial, there's myself, of course, there's 2 other individuals that are highly vested into the annual cycle of assessment with Brazeau County, and that's Jesse Nelson and Corey Allen. They're the boots on the ground in much of the cases. We've got other participants and associates within the company that also support whatever need is necessary, meaning farmland assessment or whatever their expertise may be. Down to the meat and potatoes of things. The year-over-year assessment change. We've got a 3% increase in residential assessment year-over-year, so kind of mellowed out in comparison to the last couple of years. And then non-residential assessment has increased 6%. Designated industrial property increased 5%. Linear is 15% increase. So that's going to be probably well, always is a discussion. And then farmland assessment, basically year over year, no change. That's normal. That's typical, because farmland assessment is a regulated assessment, and if a farmland parcel doesn't change year over year physically, then the assessment won't change year over year. So all that might happen in any given year is some is taken out of production and put it back into production. So it's usually a net zero, very close to. And then exempt assessment increased 8% year over year. So an overall grand total assessment change year over year, 9%. This next slide depicts that, except in a visual form. So you can see, I guess, the focus points here are residential, designated industrial property, and linear assessment. Residential assessment, as I just mentioned, was quite aggressive growth the last 2 years, the previous 2 years, and then this year has slowed up a little bit, still on a positive trend, but slowed up. I'll speak to what the future looks like here in a bit. This, just as an FYI, this is very similar to what Yellowhead County experienced as well. The last 2 years were more aggressive, and then this 2024 assessment kind of mellowed down a little bit year over year. So they're your neighbor. I thought you might want to know it's kind of parallel to that. Next slide. We've got the total assessment base graph, 5-year history here. So you can see, 2020, 21, relatively no change, but then we've been increasing ever since. And of course, this year, the big increase, slightly more than the previous 2 years, was due to the linear, and Sean will explain, and you're well aware, linear and dip, what the changes happened here now that we're going into a new phase. Taxable assessment change. So there are 7,683 taxable properties in the county. This chart is a reflection of where most of the changes occurred. It kind of segregates out, the type of change that happened or the degree of change. So the important takeaway on this is that 87% of the properties are incurring 10% or less change year over year. That's the big interest point there. The next slide is similar, except instead of percent change, it's dollar change. And almost 70% of the properties in the county are experiencing less than $10,000 change year over year. There are some that are, approximately 12% are experiencing anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 change. There are areas of the county that did experience a little higher market change than previous. So yeah, I'll be talking about that here in a bit. This chart, or charts, the first one it's more of a reflection of, I guess, macroeconomics from our perspective of Brazeau County. New accounts, we like to track that. So there's the 5-year trend, strong year, on par with previous years. Development permits, another strong year, second highest over the last 5-year period. So that's all good news and comparable in relation to what we found in your northern part or neighbor there. Now, drilling down into market change. So I break the county down into 4 property types, I guess you call them, based on the use and mainly the use and the type of property they are. So if we focus in on hamlets, which make up a small portion of the overall residential assessment, they did incur a 2 to 7% increase depending on the hamlet. But keep in mind that land in hamlets is typically very low, so a 2 to 7% increase isn't much of a change dollar-wise. And then overall improved, meaning a lot with a building on it, with a house on it, for hamlets, anywhere from a 3 to 8% increase. So positive movement. It's not uncommon to have hamlets not change year over year. There isn't a big drive for hamlet properties typically. They react a little bit slower than they do with your rural situations and such. But Rocky Rapids and Violet Grove, minimal change there. That is an exception. Poplar Ridge Industrial Park, so not many properties in that area, but specifically it's a different type of property. It's not residential. It's specifically an industrial park. Land, minimal change. Overall improved, 2 to 3% increase. Of course, still recovering from years ago when everything dropped back in 2014 drastically. So still recovering back. Residential subdivisions. So this is your rural aspect, but more of a multi-parcel subdivision situation where you have not just an acreage, but 10, 15, 20 parcels in a subdivision. Land, anywhere from 0 to 3% increase. Birchwood, which is a unique type of a property set, being a condominium situation, did incur similar in that. Overall improved, anywhere from a slight drop in values to a 7% increase. Birchwood, in that particular case, minimal change year over year. And then residential rural, so that's your anywhere from quarter sections, 10 acres, 15-acre parcels, your true rural properties. Land, and I must say, remind you that that's been an increasing market for years. It just keeps driving up, not only here, but in other sectors of Alberta. It's always a strong market, that rural situation. Anywhere from a 6 to 11% increase west of the North Saskatchewan, and then 3 to 8% increase east of the North Saskatchewan River. So a strong market with regards to land in rural Brazeau. Overall improved, so again, that same property type except with buildings on it, with houses on it, a 1 to 4% increase in property values for improved acreages of such. It's even higher when you go west of the Pembina. Properties west of the Pembina, the title properties, they experienced quite a spike last year. Strong market, and there were already sales this year indicating that we're right on the button. I mean, it wasn't just one-offs, a bunch of one-offs. There's market out there. People are paying for those properties west of the Pembina, and I guess it's one of the lower value areas years ago. I guess it's a piece of nature. People are driving towards that area, so it's strong. Next slide focuses in on residential. Now, if you remember, we had a 3% gain. In residential, actually, it was a 2.5% gain in year-over-year residential assessment. That's broken out into two different parts. Growth makes up 1.2% of that 2.5% increase year-over-year. And then market inflation, or market change, positive market change, accounts for about 1.3% of that. So a split. So that's how that's divvied out. A lot of the assessment change that you see in that very first slide, whether it's 3%, 6%, is going to be broken out into new construction or new growth, and then also market change. So that's how that's broken out. I can speak on some of the other municipalities if you'd like to know just kind of how they sat in that growth versus market change. Is that something that would be of interest?
Yeah.
Mary? Okay.
We're key to learn everything we can, Bob.
Sure, okay. Thank you, Mr. Reeve. We'll go with your adjacent neighbor, Yellowhead County. They incurred a 3.7% increase total for residential assessment year over year, so very similar. It's broken out to 1.2% growth and 2.5% market inflation. So very similar. We can go to, well, Woodlands County, very similar in nature to Brazeau. 5% increase total in residential assessment. 1.6% of that is growth. 3.5% of that is market inflation. So I think those are the two that I would like to share, just because they're directly relatable to Brazeau County. Okay, next slide is the reinspection area. Every year we do a what we call a 25% reinspection, geographic reinspection of the county. In 2024, we did basically the western portion of it, your Cynthia, Lodgepole, and all the rural titled area out there. A lot of the land is west of the Pembina. We re-inspected most every property. If we couldn't get to it, then we would use an air photo to determine if there have been any changes, etc. So in that, we found some change. We do advise the county as to the change that we do find. If there's a new structure without permit, we'll let them know, and then the county development, P&D department will take it from there. This year, we're going to be focusing on the Breton area, and we've actually already started. We've done a few inspections out there. Kind of got a jump on it, because you never know what the weather's going to bring. So yeah, again, we're looking for changes to properties, physical change to properties, and we're speaking with some of the owners, and especially in the cases where properties have traded. A lot of times we'll find renovations will occur, etc. So that's the focus area for this year, the Breton area, the blue area. Moving into my last slide before I hand it over to Sean. Before I get into the bullets, I do want to mention, I do this every year. I kind of let you know what the forecast is for assessment, where we're looking at from a market perspective at least. And what I can say is the values are ramping back up. Looking at the last 8 months of sales, meaning July of 2024 up until April of 2025, land is increasing anywhere from, looks like it could be from 6 to 10% in that time frame. So again, strong market, rurally speaking, especially east of the North Saskatchewan River. So over in the Breton area and Carnwood and all of that, very, very strong sales indicators over there. When it comes to not vacant but improved properties, same thing. We've got anywhere from, looks like to be a 5 to 8% increase in market values since last July. The only other confirmation I can give is, as far as hamlets go, not much change there. But rurally speaking, your acreages, your quarter sections, those types of properties, strong year coming into the new assessment year, which will be 2025, which we'll be analyzing this fall. Into the bullets, we'll be preparing the upcoming assessment notice and mail out taking inquiries, et cetera, as soon as mail out occurs, which is very close, very soon here. We'll be scheduling inspections anywhere between May and July with regards to the mail out. Then later in June, July, we'll be doing our request for information letters, mailing those out. And then in the fall, anywhere between September and January, we'll be re-inspecting all the new development permits and new construction that's been permitted, any new subdivisions, et cetera. So that's our year moving forward. And at that point, I can take questions if there are any questions specific to this, or I'll let Sean carry on from here.
Yeah, you're Mr. Sunshine today, delivering us nothing but good news and new growth and new opportunities in Brazeau County. So that's really positive.
Excellent.
So yeah, carry on.
Thank you.
Sean?
Thank you very much, Bob. I'll just go to the next slide here. So as Bob mentioned previously, my name is Sean Barrett. I'm the industrial manager at Accurate Assessment Group. We have another member of the industrial team with us, of course, Ali Dietrich, who is behind me on my left. She's been with the company for, and Ali, correct me if I'm wrong, but well over a decade. So she's got more than 10 years of boots on the ground assessment experience. Just like Bob's team, our industrial team is currently performing inspections in the municipality. So after this, Ali will be changing into her blue coveralls and meeting with some field operators west of Cynthia. So I'd just like to give Ali a shout out and thank you for being here today in front of council and administration. We perform our assessments of designated industrial property on behalf of the Provincial Assessor's Office. This was a change that occurred back around 2018 where they took over the control of basically delegating resources to do industrial assessment in the province. So essentially Accurate Assessment Group, we work directly for Brazeau County, but we also subcontract to the provincial government as well to perform some of our assessment services, specifically for designated industrial property. So what we look after is the assessment of surface facilities, typically regulated by the AER, the Alberta Energy Regulator, the Canadian Energy Regulator, or the Alberta Utilities Commission. Linear property is technically a subset of DIP property. DIP property is the umbrella over all of this industrial types of properties. That function is just a data-driven function, and it's completed by Alberta Municipal Affairs. So anytime there's surface production facilities, that is what we take care of. In Brazeau County, there's over 2,300 accounts or taxable properties that we administer. There's one property, the Kiera Cynthia gas plant. It's classified as a major plant. Major plants is just a category that the Provincial Assessor's Office has used to identify some of the larger assessments in the province. Again, we complete field inspections. We completed about 500 last year within Brazeau County. So the linear properties, this is simply a visual for council and administration about what these linear property types are, from pipelines to the actual well bores themselves. The electric power generation, linear electric power. Again, this is a data-driven function completed by Alberta Municipal Affairs. And the non-linear components is what myself and the industrial team and Ali, we will physically inspect with property owners. And these can range from a small separator type facility sitting in the middle of the field to a large battery or gas plant. So there's a wide range of the size and scale of these properties as well as in Brazeau County. We have that range as well, from very large facilities to a very small installation. So Bob already presented these numbers, but I can dig into them a little bit more so that when we regard designated industrial property, those are the surface facilities. So we had an increase of 5%, and that can be broke up into growth and inflation as well. And it's almost about a 50-50 split. which is very good news because growth would be capital projects, drilling activities, facility construction that we assess. That's what adds to the growth in DIP. So that combined with annual inflation resulted in a 5% increase. On the other hand, the linear property this year saw the end of the well and pipeline tax holiday. So there was previously untaxed linear property that became taxable this year. So of that 268 million in linear, about half of that, 133 million, was under that holiday. So you had 133 million under the holiday, then we had more growth in 2024, and then there was also inflation in linear as well. So that's why we saw such a large spike. Lots of municipalities around the province that have active drilling and new pipelines being put in the ground would see a similar increase to what Brazeau County saw. Of course, there's rural municipalities that don't have the benefit of drilling activity, so they may not have seen such an increase in their linear assessment. This is simply a year-over-year comparison, and again, we can see the growth, and there's significant growth in the 2024 assessment year. We hope that continues into the future as we begin our 2025 inspection campaign. Lots of growth does come from new well drilling activities. So last year in the municipality, there was approximately 100 new wells drilled. And we created from those new wells 31 new taxable parcels. Now, there's not a one-to-one relationship between a new well drilled and a new taxable parcel for reasons because there's lots of pad drilling that occurs. So, for example, we might have 6 wells drilled on a pad. That might equate to 1 taxable parcel rather than 6 taxable parcels. So that's why there's not a one-to-one relationship there. But the takeaway is that we're continuing to see drilling activity occur through Brazeau County. Natural gas production. This is from the Alberta Energy Regulator. We've seen ebbs and flows over the past 20 years. If I could predict in 2024, I believe that the natural gas production would actually increase. And then oil production, from the peaks that we saw in 2013, it came down to a low in 2020, but it's slowly increasing or perhaps stabilizing. There's still drilling oil wells out there, so we are seeing new production come online. This is some information that we haven't presented to council and administration before. There's a chart at the bottom, and it talks about the well life cycle status. So we can have many wells, say 10,000 wells in the municipality, but how many of those are actually active and how many are producing? So what this chart shows is that the industrial base from a well perspective in Brazeau County is very healthy because we've got half to almost over half of the wells are still viable, are still on production. We've got one of the oldest fields in Canada, the Pembina field, but there's new technologies and there's new ways of extracting oil and enhanced recovery, and companies are still finding ways to keep this area viable for hopefully years to come. How do we manage all of this information? We use GIS. So this is a proprietary system that we create for all of our assessors, and it will identify all of the wells and whether they're in production, whether they're suspended, whether there's a new capital project, whether there's a new pipeline going into a location, so maybe we should check that location for additions. It allows us to ensure that when we put out the assessment on an annual basis, that it's defendable, that we have reasons why the properties we assess are to be assessed and are to be taxed. So it's a very powerful tool that we have at our fingertips to monitor activity and as well current assessable properties. We also have a reinspection cycle. It covers the entirety of the municipality. As we see, activity isn't just in one area. So our assessors on an annual basis do have to cover the entire municipality. We're mandated to do a 20% reinspection cycle, but we do inspect 100% of any new wells or capital projects to ensure that those are reviewed on an annual basis. Now, previously I spoke about some tax incentives that were instituted by the province of Alberta a couple of years ago. There was an attempt at an assessment model review, and that model review ended up being canceled. It got quite contentious. So instead of implementing the new model review, there was some tax incentives put in place. The most impactful by far was the well and pipeline tax holiday. And of course, that ended in this tax year. So when I spoke about the increase in your linear assessment and the 133 million is directly attributed to that policy. However, that policy is now over. So rural municipalities are now getting that linear assessment and taxation that was previously abated. But where are we now? Now we are in the middle of a new assessment model review. So I think what happened is the previous assessment model review was very fast-paced. It got quite contentious. They've done a different look and a different approach on how an assessment model review should be done. So now what they've decided is that they're slowing down, and this is a multi-yeared approach to reviewing our legislation and our rates regarding designated industrial property. So myself, and as well, I know Ray Fortin has been here many times speaking in front of council and administration. We are both representatives of the Alberta Assessors Association as technical experts during this model review. The Assessors Association is just one stakeholder of well over 20. There's many municipal stakeholders. The primary for rural municipalities, of course, is the RMA. Ray and myself work very closely with all of the municipal stakeholders in this review. And what we just concluded was the review of the construction cost reporting guide. You can see that that was supposed to be concluded in December 2024. It's a little bit behind. We're waiting for some decisions to come from the Minister of Municipal Affairs. That was anticipated in June of 2025. However, as everyone is likely aware, the Honorable Rick McIver is no longer the Minister of Municipal Affairs. He is now the Speaker of the House, and we have a new minister who will have to get educated on the ins and outs of the assessment model review. But what is the CCRG, and why is it in one of these front stages of the model review? The CCRG is a foundational document that we utilize when we assess industrial properties. So if we assess, say, something large like a gas plant, the companies report the costs to the assessor, and we use the CCRG, and it stipulates the rules and regulations about what costs become assessable. Further to that, the CCRG is also utilized when rates are developed. So rates for linear property or rates for smaller size industrial property. There's different regulated rates that are utilized to create those assessments. Lots of those rates are far outdated now and don't reflect current technology or construction practices. For example, the rates that we utilize for most designated industrial property, that manual is from 2005. So technology changes drastically quicker than that. So the legislation has to be adapted to what we're currently seeing now in Alberta. And the CCRG is this foundational document that once completed, the government's assessment model review can then move into reviewing the costs and the rates for specific property types, such as all of our linear property and all of our machinery and equipment. Then once all of this is done, hopefully in 2027 or 2028, that is when impact analysis is intended to be completed. That's what the Municipal Affairs has commented anyway. So right now, someone could ask, well, Sean or Accurate, how is this going to affect our municipality specifically? We're very much in the infancy of this model review. Until we get to where we're actually reviewing these individual rates, and in 2028 reviewing the impacts, I don't think we'll have clarity into what these changes will do come out of the model review. But hopefully we have some very strong foundational documents, and then hopefully we have rates that reflect what's currently seen in Alberta from both a construction perspective, a cost perspective, and a technology perspective. So I know that's a lot of information, but as the assessment model review continues, if there's anything that needs to be communicated to administration, we will definitely do that. With that being said, are there any questions for either Bob or myself, of course?
Good presentation, always entertaining and interesting. So, good job. Anthony.
To Bob, from what I recall, some of the previous presentations, you had what I would call a graph that showed the growth and how we compared with other municipalities around us. I know you talked a little bit about Yellowhead and Woodlands, but this graph was, I think, through Municipal Affairs, if I remember correctly, and it showed a lot more of the municipalities and how we compared to them in our, I'm going to call it financial status or assessment numbers. Do you remember that?
No, unless this was industrial related. Ray may have had something with regards to industrial, but I've never
because it used to be in our I'm going to call it presentation like this from you guys.
Okay.
And it used to be a graph that was probably supplied by Municipal Affairs more so. Maybe it was when they were also doing some of the assessments before they contracted yourselves. And it was numbers that showed us like how ours compared to on our numbers for total assessments to Parkland, even to Town of Drayton Valley, and you know, whole other surrounding neighbors, I guess I would call them. So it was just always interesting for me to see that. So I was just, when I went through it earlier, I didn't see that.
Mr. Reeve, I'm uncertain of this graph, but it may have been something that Alberta Municipal Affairs had provided, and it may have been industrial related in the past. But we don't currently run that slide or that.
Because it was part of your presentation, like usually.
Okay.
You know, when you guys would come, it would be page 1 of, or page 10, whatever. I don't remember what page number it was, but
yeah,
it was in your package.
Okay.
Sure, we can, we have our historical presentations, and we can review those, and if there is a chart that was excluded from this council package, we can see what the source of that chart is, and then communicate to yourself and try to find perhaps which exact chart that was referencing, whether it's something from Municipal Affairs, perhaps in regards to equalized assessment, where it compared different municipalities, but we'll try to find something, because that I could see how that would be beneficial.
Sometimes we have discussions with our neighbors, and you know, there's the question is, and sometimes even with the rural urban scenarios of, oh gee, you got so much compared to us. Well, those are all numbers that are just tossed out unless we have a chart like that that gives us something to compare it to. So to me, it was always nice to have that as a base to look at when we get into some of those discussions.
Okay.
He wants to win an argument, is what he said. I just decoded that for you. Glenn?
Through the chair to Mr. Barrett. So I've been hearing a lot about the data centers and that there's not a lot of profitability. Well, there's nothing in it for the county, tax-wise. And I hear that over and over again, that there's no benefit to having something that size in the county. What's your opinion on that?
That's a very good question. With regards to data centers, there's a couple components that are assessed and taxed. So if there's a land component, it will be assessed as a commercial use. If there's any buildings on site, they will be assessed as market value. If there's any power generation used for self-generation, so say natural gas generators that are used to create power, those are assessed, and as well as the machinery and equipment that generates power is assessed and taxed as well. Where this conversation comes from about no net benefit, or people's opinions about no net benefit to a municipality, is because a large portion of the cost to build a data center is the internal computer components themselves. So I've heard presentations from the province of Alberta that could range anywhere from 60 to 90% of the cost of the data center. And where the conversation continues is whether those internal servers are accessible property in Alberta. Right now, that is up in the air. There has been a previous board decision, so there was an assessment complaint that occurred, and the board concluded that the components, the computer components, did not constitute being machinery and equipment, therefore not assessed and not taxed. Of course, the buildings and the land and the electrical generation, as I mentioned, is assessed and taxed, but that would mean a large portion of a capital cost would not be assessed and taxed. So there is a board decision from many years ago that is in that regard, and there's also been some legal interpretation about whether they should be assessed or taxed. But more importantly is about where the conversation is going. As we're doing the assessment model review, when this model review gets into speaking about machinery and equipment, this is going to come up. And when it gets into talking about perhaps linear type telecommunication equipment, this conversation is going to come up. So right now, it's a little bit of a gray area, whether those internal computer components should be assessed and taxed. I think it's more leaning towards, at the current state, if we were preparing an assessment, it might get very contentious if somebody added them as taxable property. Until thus time, the model review is concluded. And then I think we'll have more clarity in the province. I know that the province of Alberta is very in tune to all of these potential projects that we see. Lots of them have been in the news. There's Wonder Valley in the MD of Greenview. I just heard about $1 billion one in the city of Calgary. So municipalities, whether rural or urban, are going to be paying attention to what's going to happen through this model review and what's going to happen with these properties. So my opinion as an assessor is that there still is a benefit to the municipality whenever you have a capital project, because although perhaps one portion of it might not be at the current moment assessed and taxed, you're still getting an assessment and taxation benefit from the buildings and the commercial land and perhaps jobs in the area, or utilizing natural gas that comes from the resources right around us to create electricity. So there's general net benefits to these projects.
But of the 100%, only about 10% then you're saying is actually assessed right now?
There's no exact number. It can definitely range depending on the project. For example, in other municipalities, I have had Bitcoin mining operations that were built, but they purchased power off the grid. So they didn't have natural gas generation on their site, so their assessment was very low compared to if there was a data center built beside them that had their own electrical generation capabilities. So it depends in part on how they source or create electricity, and It depends on the capital cost of the project and what the buildings and structures look like. What they're finding now, in my experience, is some of these data centers that are built, although the buildings might be very large in scale, I've been in some that are more of a shell, not insulated, and they require lots of ventilation because as these computers and servers create heat, they need to displace this heat in order to keep it running. So that's another reason why I've heard that Northern Alberta has become so attractive for these data centers is, one, our climate for about 9 months of the year, and then, of course, two, our location to the natural gas resources.
Yeah, we had a bit of a concern. Council talked about using up our capacity of electrical power, and then it would require, you know, bigger feeder lines to come to the county. But I don't want to get sidetracked. That was, council talked about that, saying that you get a big data center, a mega center, they might consume the capacity of Brazeau County.
Very, very valid conversations, yeah, and of course, depending on the specifics of the project, whether they create their own power or purchase it and are taking those resources from the ASO grid, so, correct.
We're going to use them as stoves and cook all our food there. All right, Anthony.
Like, from what you're saying, Sean, is the likelihood of us getting taxation on that other 90% fairly good or more remote? Because my concern is that we have, if it's what we already have one that was up that way in our part of the county, it created significant noise to the neighboring properties. And if we're only getting, let's say, 10% of its value assessment-wise, and yet we're getting 100% of the headaches, I think there's some real issues that the province needs to consider when they're putting these centers out on how they allow for assessment, because they need to look at the whole impact. And to put out these computers, as I was told in the past, and maybe what you have alluded to, that they're more categorized as personal property, therefore not assessed. When they are truly used in business venture, I think that's a hard statement to swallow, to call them personal property when they're making significant investment off of them. So I think that argument needs to be adjusted, and the province needs to find the regulation authority, whatever you want to call it, to see that it's assessed, so that at least if our ratepayers are being 100% impacted, we have some value in 100% value of assessment.
Councillor, those are very valid concerns and questions, and as your assessment provider, I think my recommendation would be is that if the municipality has any specific concerns about this, I would definitely speak with your RMA representatives, as they are involved in the assessment model review and perhaps from more of an advocacy role versus the assessment community. We have to take whatever legislation the government creates and view it from a technical standpoint. So with regards to any concerns or recommendations, as you mentioned, then I think 100% definitely speak with your representative at the RMA.
So Kara is on our board here, but she's also the president of the RMA, so there's our representative. So she's listening in, so she'll take that message forward, I'm sure. All righty.
But there's also the part that when you're doing the assessments, you're also, your agency, Accurate Assessment, also does the residential assessments for us. So in the past, not necessarily related to these types of centers, but other projects that have gone on in the counties, when there's been an infringement on the citizens' peace and quiet and the like, sometimes they've lobbied to get their assessment reduced because of the impact they have to suffer. So it has a double whammy to the county if that was the situation, because we're also not only getting the assessment of the 90%, but we're perhaps losing some residential assessment or farmland assessment based on the reduced assessment of those properties. So I think it's important that that whole picture is presented, and for yourselves to present that with a bit of I guess, expertise, it would be helpful to us, because you're the ones that are going out there and deciding whether or not that ratepayer is affected by this property and perhaps adjusting his assessment.
Through the chair, valid points, absolutely. I mean, when asked, we will give our advice on these types of topics. There are instances in the past with other types of property types, whether it be a pulp mill and you're downwind of that, may affect the value. It's our job to figure out how much of effect on that value is, more so than getting in front of it and trying to, I guess, advise legislation unless brought in to ask for our opinion on what the effect would be. So if we're in that position, we definitely will give our 2 cents on that. Absolutely.
I don't think anybody'd want to live downstream of a sour gas well, as an example.
That's, yeah, precisely.
Okay, time is of the essence. I don't see any more questions, so a motion to accept the assessor's reports. Donna?
I move to accept the assessor's reports.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the
coming
privilege
out.
of your time today.
Okay, take the rest of the day off.
Couldn't remember their names.
Discussion, all those in favor? Thanks for putting up with them, Ally. And Kara? Oh, Kara, how do you vote? Oh. All right. Be gone. There is no reports. Trying to be efficient here. So yeah.
Is Kara back online, or? Okay, with that, I'll call the meeting back to order.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Kara. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
We'll
Thank you.
continue on with item number 21, Recreation Board, Anthony Heinrich.
Okay, do we want to do that, or we want to go to
Public input?
Yeah.
That skipped like 4 minutes in 2 seconds. That was literally not there. Okay.
I'm just looking at that, that's the time?
It was 5 minutes too. Okay. So with that, we're going to go to public input. This is a time for ratepayers to come and share concerns or questions with the council. We ask you to be respectful. And if you have ways to address the issue or fix the issue, please let us know. We'll be taking questions from the auditorium as well as online. So with that, we'll take from in the auditorium first. So if you can come up, state your name for the council so we can write it down, and then let us know what your concern is.
Good morning, council. My name is Tom Schroeder. I'm the manager of the airport here. And
Thank you, Tom.
First of all, thank you. I would like to thank you all for approving the upgrade to Taxiway Charlie. Rudy, for your hard work, thank you. This is especially good for me because the present condition, it has lots of debris on it, which is picked up by the aircraft's propellers, and the pilots come to me and they complain because they have chips on their propellers, and now I will be able to say no more. So thank you. In light of this, we have at the airport a short gravel ring road that is used for any heavy traffic such as the fuel truck. So they do not go on Taxiway Charlie. In the past, they did, and that has caused deterioration of the, we want to see our new upgrade to not be used by any heavy traffic. So this ring road is essential. Now, in the spring here, we've had the trucks come in, and it was a bit soft, and the ring road is in bad shape. So what I'd like to ask, if it's possible for the county to ask Public Works to have a grader come out for an hour or two and tune up this ring road for us, and possibly a little gravel if it's needed in some of the softer spots.
We don't normally motion for things to be done right after public input, but yeah, I'll bring that concern to our CEO and get back to you and see what we can do about that then.
I had spoken with Lisa in Public Works, and she wasn't sure what the policy was.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd bring it up today, if that maybe helps things out for her. I will leave it with you.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
With that, I'll go to online. Is anybody online that wants to bring a question? Okay. With that, I'll close public input. And now I'll go to number 21, Recreation Board, Anthony Heinrich.
Couple things though, first, before I go there. Do we want to add his topic to the agenda? Because we should be adding the topic that Mr. Schroeder just put before us.
Yes.
If we want to deal with it.
Yes.
So I would add a request for maintenance at the airport. Under Public Works, whatever number that is. I don't know, I didn't look a number, sorry. 11C, thank you. And then that's one item. Do you want to vote on that first, or?
Do you want to make that a motion? Do you move that?
Yeah, I move that.
Okay, yeah, with that question on the table, I'll call a vote. Any comments, I guess, first? None? I see none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
With that, we're going to add that to 11C.
Okay, the other one I have that I would like to add under General Matters, 12B, is a letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs regarding the assessment of computers for databases and cryptocurrency operations.
Do you want to move that then?
Yes,
or,
I'm moving that.
Was there any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
That's unanimous.
Okay, so now where do you want me to go?
Oh, why don't we address these issues then? We'll go to 11C then first.
Okay, so can I speak to it?
Yes.
In light of what we just heard, assessors tell us that I'll probably
Oh,
close.
11C was airport, sorry. Public Works. For the runway?
So, okay, which one are we speaking of?
11C. I had that as Public Works.
Okay, well then I'll go to that one. That's what, which one you want? Sorry. Okay, so for the maintenance of the airport, that's where the individual, Mr. Schroeder, had just asked us to do some grading in that. And maybe if it needs, touch it up. I think that's a fair request for us to consider. We've done other little in-kind services like this before. So I think we should, I would see us doing that, but we should also keep track of that amount, because any costs for the airport usually are shared with the town. So I think these are things that we can balance out at the end of the day with the ledger with the town too. So I would ask the town, or the staff, I mean, if we're going to do this, to make sure we keep track of those costs for later on, utilization for the airport costs in total. So do you need a motion to?
No, I'd like to go to Rudy. Do you see any issues with us doing this, or?
No, I don't think so. I think it would have been just a maintenance request that could have gone to Public Works, I think. Based on our agreement, I mean, we expect to do some work over there, and I appreciate the comment about keeping track of the time, and I think that that would be a good reminder to Public Works to do that.
That's why I think it's important that we keep track. So just for for it to be on what I call a record, that it's, we're, public can see that we're acknowledging we're doing this work there, and it does then help to, if staff keeps the record of the costs, that we then can make sure that all costs are equally supported by both town and county. So with that, I move to direct administration to provide the support needed in maintenance for the, what did they call it? Runway? Not runway, taxiway road, both in terms of maintenance and gravel.
The ring road. The ring road.
Ring road, thank you.
Is there any questions or comments on this motion? Kara, did you have anything?
No, I don't.
With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
That's unanimous. Now we will go to 12B, Minister of Municipal Affairs letter.
Okay. In light of what Sasser just told us, how potentially 90% of our assessment is not considered with database centers and cryptocurrencies, meaning the computer component, and where they consider them to be personal properties and therefore not taxed or accessible, I think we need to lobby the government to see that assessment of those computers legitimately for their value, rather than having them escape through this loophole, because they truly are, in my opinion, a big part of their business. They're the only major part of their business, and so I think they should be assessed. So I would ask that, or I move that we write a letter to Minister of Municipal Affairs requesting the assessment of the computer networks for database centers and cryptocurrency operations.
Is there any questions or comments from council? Kara?
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, just CC RMA in the letter too as well. We're aware of this, but I would CC CC RMA. The other thing to food for thought is to send a resolution for the fall convention too on this.
Yeah.
I think a resolution on this would be really good and very timely.
Kara, Councillor Ekstrom said that this has already come towards RMA. Is that true or not?
I can check the database, but some of the ones are expired too as well. So I can double check into that, and then we can bring it back to the next council meeting.
So my opinion on this is that, yeah, they're going to be doing this assessment model review. This is probably a really good time to be sending a letter and advocating with a resolution. So I'll let someone wants to make a motion on that.
I made the motion. I made the motion to send a letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Okay.
Requesting that they can include the computer component of data centers and cryptocurrency operations as accessible properties. And CC it to RMA. Thank you.
No questions or comments. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
That's carried unanimous. Now we'll go back to
Recreation Board.
number 21, Recreation Board, Anthony Heinrich.
Well, at our last meeting, my first meeting I was there, we had to elect the vice chair since Cody was vice chair and Kara is the new vice chair. And as you guys already had heard earlier, we talked about a recreation master plan. Really, it was more informing us of some of the decisions that had already been made. The town council apparently had more information than we had already in terms of seemingly have talked about it. But anyway, you know, as we've decided, we're going to be doing that now with our motion. They also have done a study already that was got granted at 80% for a grant, 20% the town put in for a study on the plant to see its length of its life that it had left. And they're of the opinion, it seems like that it's going to be needed to be replaced by 2026-ish, or thereabouts. And they believe there should be some grants available, perhaps to the tune of 25%. And the other 75%, they would be looking for the county and the town to split in a half each. And the estimate seems to be, right now, that they got back on their study for the plant to replacement or refurbishment, was it around 1.4 million, if I remember correctly. But by the time you get to these later stages, when the plant actually will be replaced, they're suggesting those costs likely will be higher. So it was suggested probably we'd be better off looking at $2 million total cost, 25% from grants potentially, so meaning $1.5 million, 750,000 from each of us. That's what they're suggesting for us to be thinking about budgeting. They talked about their pickleball courts and how they have them ready now to go. Talked about EPAC and how Council supports Council of Drayton Valley supports Phase 2. Just looking here, reading. I think that pretty much covers most of everything. Oh, the street party. Yeah, they're looking, or at least I guess it sounds like the same group that has done a street party here in years past will be doing another one, and they'll be looking for $10,000 funding and probably be coming to each of us, the county and the county, for half of that. So us, we likely will be asked for $5,000 for that. Thank you. I didn't see it quite. That's everything that I got here anyway. Kara, do you have anything you want to add from the recreational meeting?
Oh, you did a great job covering it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will go to number 22, Eagle Point's Blue Rapids Park Council. Councilor Ekstrom.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. No meeting, no report.
So number 23, Yellowhead Regional Library, there wasn't a meeting. Number 24, I will go through it since we have some time. This is the Drayton Valley Municipal Library report. Our meeting in April, we couldn't get quorum for it, so that was canceled, probably because of Easter. The May 15th meeting, we had all 9 trustees in attendance. We had the resignation of one of our trustees, Mary Turner. She's from Parkland County. So I want to thank her for her time, and it was great having her on the board for when we did have her. A pleasure. The board was given a presentation from Charlene Berryhead, who is Vice President of Learning and Reconciliation at the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. She is an educator and an Indigenous education advocate. She is also a co-author of a children's book series, Sia Two Skin Knows, and there's quite a few books in there when I looked online. Charlene, she's not Indigenous, but she's married to Wilson Berryhead, who is a Nakota elder and a member of the Wabamun Lake First Nations in Treaty 6 territory. Mr. Wilson has served as Chief of the Community, Grand Chief of Treaty 6, and the Assembly of First Nations of Alberta Regional Chief. Charlene also served as a member of the Indigenous Education Advisory Circle for the National Film Board of Canada and was an educational coordinator for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. She is currently working on bringing the Roots of Resilient Charter School into the CETC once it's approved later this month. Charlene gave the board some advice on crafting a land acknowledgement that would be specific to our community. And yeah, with that, she actually grew up in our community. She was one of the few that remembers skating in the old skating rink, and that's where the town office is now. It used to be a big skating rink there, a hockey arena. She gave us a lot of great tips on basically how to craft it in a way that wouldn't offend anybody and would actually incorporate the people around us. After the meeting, she did have an ask. They're going to be doing the Indigenous Days. It's supposed to be on the June 21st, but they're going to do it a day ahead of time because it's a children-focused event, so all the schools can attend. This will be at the CETC, and I think we've been there before, where they make bannock and they have the drum dancers, and it's quite an event. This year it's going to be at the CETC, and she's asked the library to take one of the tents and do some programming in it for the kids, and we're working towards that. It was an honor to have Charlene present to the board. She's well-informed and a great speaker. So yeah, just small updates for the whole month of May, the library didn't have a telephone that worked. The TELUS is really moving away from landline-based, and they'd like to see everyone use internet-based phones, so they're not giving a lot of service on repairing that. So the library is going to go with a voice over internet protocol. The only hiccup right now is that the phones all run off of a charger, so everyone's got a phone in their office, but all that was available is one charger, so everybody's got to share the one charger. The library will be closed from May 27th to June the 3rd for the electrical and carpet upgrades. We're going to give notice on the social media like Facebook and newspapers so people know. We'll try to keep the book drop open so that people can still drop off their books. That depends on the okay from the town because we got to take the cart right through their office. The board has decided to extend the contract with Paladin Security for another 6 months. It's been working great, and the only changes will be because our summer hours were closed some days during the summer to give staff time to enjoy the summer, so we're going to adjust those shifts for. The manager wanted us to decide which way we wanted to go with human resources. We've been using an online service called HR Downloads. It's now called Citation HR. And the board was given an option of going with HR Downloads and then adding a component of safety to it as well, a health and safety program. So we've decided, since we've already used the HR Downloads for the human resources, we've got all that kind of figured out. We're just going to drop that and we're going to go with the health and safety part of it. And that allows staff to access to a whole range of safety courses that they can take, and they can get a certificate for it. It's a reasonable, it's under $3,000, so it's a good price for what we can do. The CCAN that has been so contentious and talked over many, many times, we've been told by town staff that the CCAN that the town donated is actually in a very good spot. It's secure, because people are always there, and the town maintenance will keep the snow cleared around it, so it won't be moved to the county yard in Drayton Valley. The board reviewed the MOU with the town of Drayton Valley just ahead of time, and we're still looking at seeing if we can go with a different style of an audit. The one that they recommend that we use is very expensive, so the board's looking to see if there's an opportunity to choose a less costly financial review. Some little things like are in section 6.4 of it, it refers to the security system of our RFID tags, and we've done away with that a year ago, so we have to change that. The MOU also states the town will take care of the traffic signage to direct people to the library, and the board noticed that there wasn't really any signage in the town pointing that way, so we're going to address that one as well. We were given the financial report for the first quarter. Everything looked okay other than janitorial, which was almost used up. It was probably just a typo on the report. The board was presented with options for the relocation of the Rotary Children's Library sign. That was the big sign on the Catholic high school. It's just too large to move the town. So the president of the Rotary clubs has said that just a decal sign on the front of the library will suffice. And the biggest piece, I guess, in all of this is Rachel Canton. She's on the board of the Brazeau Seniors Foundation. They've talked about bringing the library into the new seniors lodge that they're going to construct, and that'll be on the school land. So the idea would be to construct a 10,000 square foot library in the seniors lodge. It's separate from the seniors lodge. It would still have access to the seniors lodge through a doorway, so they don't have to go outside, but the main entrance would be outside. It would have a cafeteria, and we could utilize the staff from the seniors complex to supply sandwiches and coffee and things from that cafeteria. We figured that the rental on such a space would probably be $20,000 per month, split between the town and the county appropriately, depending on population, but there may be some options if we can work out some deals with the town and the county. The meeting was adjourned at 4 o'clock, and the next meeting will be June 19th, 2025 at the Civic Center at 1:15 p.m. With that, I'll go to number 25, Agricultural Service Boards. Anthony Heinrich.
During this past month, myself and the Vice Chair and administration met with Alberta Transportation to discuss the spraying protocol that they're doing with weeds. And it sounds like they're more agreeable to do the spraying in a more prompt time, so it sounds favorable, what our request was of them. Pretty much that's it, I guess, that I have to report on the Ag Service Board, other than its meeting is tomorrow. Then going to the Municipal Planning Commission. That's where I goofed up on this last meeting. I forgot that it existed, and I guess I missed it, but it sounds like there was one application, and I believe it was approved. If I'm wrong, Dallas can correct me. And then the next meeting I have is Pembina Synergy Group, and there was no meeting since the last.
Now we'll go to number 28, Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee, Kara Westerland.
No meeting, but we do have 2 doctors retiring. Well, both from Michelle Murphy's one of them.
Thank you. We will slip down to, there was no meeting for the Technology Innovation and Investment Attraction Committee either, so 32 meeting dates we'll go to. Sorry, yeah. Can I get a motion to accept the reports for information? Okay. We'll go to Councillor Wiltsey.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say here, but poor Rachel, she brought this up at the seniors board meeting, and I knew nothing about it, and I went, does the library have that kind of money? And she's so sweet, the poor little girl, I just feel so bad, and then me and Tom started in, and anyway, I didn't know anything about it, so now it's out in the open so we can talk about it. And yeah, maybe we should put it on, like, where are you going next?
So right now, it's just because they're doing the engineering of the building and the architect, the design, they just wanted to know if we were interested. So they've also talked to the museum to see if they're interested in collaboration to give them a spot. So it really is with the Brazeau Foundation and our executive to move forward and see. We're just looking for numbers, and because we have to be able to present something to council, that could be approved.
Okay, I have an apology to make to poor Rachel.
Yeah.
I think we have to ask the questions, though, too, of the cost of that additional facility that would be built in, or potentially could be built at the Brazeau Seniors Foundation, because it really impacts Brazeau County, in my opinion, more significantly than anyone else, the town per se, or Breton. The monies that are usually requested are based on assessments, and that means we pay the lump share of it. So if we're doing that, it needs to be understood that we would be looking at, in all likelihood, they would be looking at us financing the costs of these facilities in large part. And I think we should be bringing that to their attention. I don't think that's a fair approach to have us, through that taxation system set up by the province, have us paying for the library facility in majority sense, as well as the museum, so a home. So I think that needs to be brought into this picture before we are gung-ho about, let's say, this venture. Just my opinion. I'm asking for others' comments. I don't want to be the only one throwing this out.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Wiltsey.
Yes, I know that is it 40, 60, or 45? I'm not sure.
Assessment-wise,
Yeah,
ours is about 78 or 80%.
78%. So the museum or the library butts up against the seniors' lodge. In the future, they'll need maintenance, which will come on us, right? Because we pay more for the lodge. That was my thinking too. When I heard it, my mind's going, oh my goodness, where does this go? Like, are we paying what we pay for the lodge due to assessment? Like, anyways, there's just lots and lots of questions, and it's just in the talking stage. But
Go ahead, Councillor Ekstrom.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. Yeah, moving forward, right now they're at a concept, a design. So no engineering at this point, from what I can gather. It's just architecture, just concept. So I think county, our responsibility now is to pay very close attention and have a very informed opinion about how they move forward. Otherwise, they will be moving forward. So that's our role, for sure.
Councillor Heinrich?
Well, I think we should be informing them right away, because I don't think it's fair to have them spend the money on an architectural plan that would incorporate this concept of us and those other two facilities being there, which means Brazeau's paying for the majority of it. They're already spending money on that concept, that if it's a one that we're not in favor of, and one that isn't fair to be implemented in that fashion, the money is being spent on the architecture part as well. So I would think we should be saying our answer and bringing forward our concern at this point before they go any further, because if they go to the architecture point, the money is already invested, and it's harder to back up, and why are we spending the money on architecture even, that isn't even necessary?
Councillor Wiltsey?
So perhaps we should ask for a meeting with the seniors board?
Rudy? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Councillor Heinrich?
Rudy, I guess I would be looking for some direction from yourself, because I'm bringing up my concern. I think I would ask for this point administrative guidance.
Thank you, through the Deputy Reeve, to Councillor Heinrich. Fair points. This is something that's in its infancy, and certainly I think there's members of council that have more awareness of some of the details of what's happened than I do. But I think it's prudent for administration to look into this, gather some information on this, and get in front of this to the point where we can bring a fulsome update to council at the next meeting.
Yeah, I agree. This is just talk right now. There's no money's being spent. They're just, I mean, those processes will come to us, but right now, they just wanted to know where the board was.
From my point of view?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to see Rudy or staff get on top of this before the architecture starts. Because as soon as the architecture starts, they're starting to spend money on a concept larger than what I believe potentially may be approved. And I don't want to spend money on a concept that may not be approved. So I would like to see administration get on top of this before our architecture planning takes place.
I would assume, though, because we have members on the Brazeau Foundation, that they would inform us before that money is spent, before it's allocated, right? Go ahead, Councillor Wiltsey.
I know the seniors board has, in the near future, they're going to see, I think it's, I had it wrote down here. They're going to see three seniors lodges that have just been built, to see if that concept would any of those concepts would work to work in Drayton. So they're not just talking about it, they're moving ahead. So, well, not moving ahead, but yeah, I think we need to be in the plan more than just me, because I have my opinion, but it's not the board's opinion, or not the council's opinion. So yeah, I would like to see, I don't know, maybe administration talking with the CAO of I don't have a, Anthony, you have an actual, you have an actual, what am I trying to say? Direction, yes. You have a motion, that's what I'm saying.
Heinrich, go ahead.
I would like to see us, and I'm prepared to make a motion, but I'm talking just at this point yet. I would like to see us write a letter, make a motion, is what I would be thinking, to direct administration at this point, meaning Rudy, Pat Vincent, Village of Breton, CAO, and CAO from the lodge, to have a conversation on this, and to have a clear understanding of what the costs are and what the expectations are and who's paying for this new overall facility. Is the province putting the money in? Then it's a good thing for us. But if we're paying for these things, and not only is it a consideration of if this thing is being rented out to these other parties, is there any subsidiary costs from the Seniors Foundation being left into what I'm going to call maintenance of the facility, new facility, that would now increase our our taxation requirements? I think we need to know the whole picture. Like if it's a larger facility, are there going to be more maintenance costs? So, okay, 70% of those maintenance costs now are going to be Brazeau County's, and all that needs to be part of the discussion. It's what I would ask for Rudy and the others to include in there. So I'm making sure that the whole picture is understood and that they understand where we're coming from. So with that, if you guys are okay, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yep, go ahead.
I move to direct administration, Rudy, as well as the administration from the town, village, and the Seniors Foundation to get together and discuss this proposed development that would include a library and museum within their Brazeau Foundation plans, and come back with giving council an understanding of how the costs might impact Brazeau County.
Is there any questions, comments from council?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with the motion. The last meeting, it was the only meeting that I had sat in, and it was right after Councillor Brooks had resigned, and it was a concept design. My suggestion was that the presenter come back and present to this council. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I would say that was an idea that would float pretty quickly. I think they're receptive to that idea, bringing that information concept to us. I'm just going to give a poke, and that is when it comes to forming boards and committees, and I've asked for councillors to be sitting on boards. And when it comes to situations like this, it's so important that you have the right people sitting at the table. Over and out.
There's a lot of history.
Press your button. Councillor Heinrich?
There's a lot of history that some of us may not have when we're coming to those boards, and we may need to make sure that what appears to be a great venture is thoroughly understood of the implications to each municipality. And so I think we need to that's why I'm asking for administration. I think it would be appropriate using this motion to have administration do that research.
I agree. I think it's a great motion. That'll call a question. All in favor? Oh, wait, sorry. We'll go to CO.
Deputy Reeve, just through you to council, a technicality on the motion. Council is free to direct its administration, but is unable to direct other administrations. So.
Yeah, but I'm asking you to meet with, hopefully.
Do you want to change your motion, though, to?
Yeah, please.
To direct administration to reach out to the administration of the Town of Drayton Valley, Village of Breton, and Brazeau Foundation to gather information regarding the concept, including a potential library and future costs of the new seniors building.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
Passed unanimous? No. Did we have a motion, Tina, to accept the reports yet? No? Can I get a councillor to, we'll go to Councillor Wiltsey.
I move to accept the reports for information.
Comments, questions? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
This carried unanimous. We'll slip into meetings, number 32, meeting dates. This is the invitation for the county representative and guests to attend the Air Cadets Annual Ceremonial Review and Dinner, May 31st, 2025.
So this event, many of you will be away at FCM, including the Reeves, so I'm looking for Councillor Heinrich or Wiltsey to see if you are able to attend.
When is it? May 31st?
Just press your mic button. And
Yes, I can.
Councillor Wiltsey?
I'm sorry. Yes, I can attend.
Can I get a motion to approve her? Councillor Heinrich?
I move to approve Donna Wiltsey's attendance at the invitation to represent the county at the Air Cadet Annual Ceremonial Review and Dinner, May 31st, 2025.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
It's carried unanimously. Go to 32B, Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting, suggested dates, June 23rd, 25th, 27th, or the 30th.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, Kara.
The 25th is the only date that was scheduled.
Councillor Ekstrom?
25th is the only date that won't work for me.
She only had the 25th that would work. And none of those dates, Councillor Ekstrom, work at all?
Well,
That's-
the rest of the dates work.
The rest of the dates do work? Okay.
That's fine, yeah. Just the 25th is the only one that I'm away.
Kara, I think we're all wide open except for you. Are you able to move anything around?
It was the 23rd and the 24th.
23rd?
No, neither. I am in St. Paul, and then the other date, I'm in, if I can join virtually, I could do it. But if not, none of those dates worked.
To the CEO, how long is the meeting? Would it be possible to do it virtual?
Yes, Deputy Reeve, expectation is that the meeting would be about a 60-minute meeting.
Oh, 60 minute?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's 60 minutes, then let me just double check here.
Depending on questions, but
We
60
can do
to
it on
90.
we can do it on the 25th of the morning then, apparently. So Kara, you were good for the 25th?
Yeah, 25th, I'm wide open.
Okay, can I get a motion to do this on the 25th then? Councillor Ekstrom?
Yeah, I'll move that Brazeau County Council schedule Emergency Management Advisory Committee date for June 25th, 9:00 a.m.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
That's unanimous, carried. We'll go to 32C, Canadian Strategy Group Rooftop Grants Reception, Calgary Stampede, July 6th, 2025. I know that I'm going. I don't know who else is going. Tina, do you know?
I'll be there, but I will be attending on behalf of our owners.
So it's just me and the Reeve. We're going to be in Calgary anyway. There's no extra charges to go. We're just looking for council's author permission to attend the event. Can I get a councillor to make that motion, please? Councillor Wiltsey?
I move to authorize
Deputy Reeve?
the Reeve and Council Gunderson to attend the rooftop branch reception in Calgary, July 6th.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Kara, how do you vote?
In favor.
That passes unanimously. With that, we will go to number 33, closed session. We have time for that? Rudy, we have time for that? Municipal Partnership Opportunity, FOIP, Section 21. Can I get a councillor to make that motion, please? Councillor Ekstrom?
I move that Brazeau County Council go into closed session for